Are you ready to get energized? It is the EG4 Power Hour, and I am your host, John Tostanowski. Today we have an awesome episode, super special about some of the special efforts that EG4 does here in the US and around the world. And I have a very special guest, a member of our team, Mr. Bryan McInnis. How are you, sir?
I'm well. It's good to be here on the Power Hour.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean it's becoming famous. I feel like uh, I'm part of something that's like up and to the right.
I appreciate that. I think it is becoming famous because obviously they did a really good job with your makeup today.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then with you as a host, it kind of it's so easy. So
Yeah, man.
yeah.
We don't have a makeup person. Yeah, no. I'm just kidding. So Bryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role here at EG4? I mean, obviously I know what it is, but it'd be great if the audience knows.
Yeah, so I'm Associate Director of Business Development, but what that really means is I focus on nonprofit organizations and equipping them with resources, solar, inverters, batteries, mini splits to power their mission. So, and we've done work, and I'll talk a little bit about it, but down the road. But we've done work all over, the U.S., globally, West Africa, East Africa, Haiti, Honduras. And so it's a really special thing we get to be a part of as an entire staff, So I get to be the one who encourages people with the impact that their hard work, and tech support or whatever is helping to make possible.
That's awesome.
So I feel like I have the best job in the company.
You do. You've got the opportunity to do a lot of like really obviously really heartwarming things that kind of obviously it's great to make you feel good, to make yourself feel good, right? When you can do some of these things, but you're actually accomplishing true goals that, make the world a better place. Kind of sounds fluffy, but that's the reality, right? Is like you are a part of EG4's arm that is dedicated towards community outreach, building sustainability, grid sustainability, resources, just, energy independence and beyond. There's a lot of things that you guys do with like water resources and stuff, but providing communities that would not otherwise be able to access some of these resources, you're the man in charge of leading that effort, which is incredible.
Yeah, so EG4 has done, a lot of amazing things within the community here in Northeast Texas, but the sort of the direction of my role is to even go beyond that to support through our products, like I said, nonprofits that are doing really critical work. And that's my background. So I don't have a solar background at all. I knew absolutely nothing about solar. I grew up in Minnesota, and so coming from Minnesota, you don't necessarily think, although there is a lot of solar in Minnesota.
Now there is, yeah.
But yeah, so I worked for an organization back in 2020 that does work in Haiti, and I held an event at my house. It was like a fundraiser, like just come and learn about what's happening in Haiti for our community here in Sulphur Springs. And a friend of mine brought this, like at the time, 23-year-old guy, James Showalter. And I didn't know who he was. EG4 was just getting started. But I shared a little bit about the challenges in Haiti, specifically related to access to electricity. And of course, if you don't have access to electricity, it's very difficult to create jobs, even start jobs, cook, in a clean way, power schools, power clinics. I mean, when you really think about it, you look at food, water, and electricity, and they're the real foundations, because if you don't have access to either of those three, you can't really do much in terms of upward mobility for a culture, for a society.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you think about like some of the security challenges that a place like Haiti has, and like what the Haitian people go through every day. A lot of it is more fundamental in terms of like the core issues there. Obviously, there's a lot of governmental issues, but the fact that they have, such a high rate of poverty, and crime, and a lot of it is related to the ability to access things like electricity.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't think about it in this very first world life that I live in. I have to be cognizant every day of like what many people throughout the world go through
Mm-hmm.
is my electricity and the roof over my head and the infrastructure that I have
Yeah.
here in the United States. That provides me with an overwhelming, not sense of security, but
Mm-hmm.
actual security,
Absolutely.
right? And in places like Haiti, they just simply don't have the infrastructure to provide them that security. And you see things like crime and,
Yeah.
you know, not good access to food and water run rampant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I was sharing some of those challenges at my home. James showed up with a friend of mine, and he was really moved to want to help. And that was sort of the first introduction I had to James, which was someone who deeply cared about people who were under resourced in the world. And one of the things I shared specifically during that conversation was talking about the cost of diesel in Haiti. The areas where we serve don't have grid power access, and so the only option that we had from our vantage point was, you fire up these massive generators. We had a job creation incubator going. We had a bakery, commercial bakery, clinic, orphanage, school. So all of these things are run by these massive diesel generators. And so you're creating all this dirty power, which is challenging for the sensitive, especially medical equipment. So if like you're running a dirty generator into an X-ray machine, that machine's going to break down a lot more quickly, or an ultrasound machine or whatever, than it would if you had clean power going into it. And so we started to see stuff break down. Diesel costs started to go through the roof, and then we also noticed this weird effect where because we consumed so much diesel in that community, we were actually causing the cost in the market to rise because of supply and demand. So we were using all this diesel, and so for the family that just needed it for, having a light bulb turn on, or powering their diesel car, it's going to be more expensive for them. It was because of us. So we're there trying to help, but the impact of trying to help, we were actually creating a more, difficult situation for a lot of families in Haiti. And so after that talk, James came up to me and he asked if we had ever considered solar. And I'm like, yeah, we actually, before I came on at that organization, we had gotten a couple bids for systems to cover all of our resources. So James is like, yeah, can you send me the bids? And so I think like the next day I sent them to him, and he got back to me right away. He was like, "This is the products are garbage and they're way overpriced. Uh, how about if we work together and send a container down there with what you need?" And I was like, "Yeah, if we can afford it, though, because I mean these quotes were like anywhere between $250,000 to $400,000 to for everything installed." And I was like, "So, but how do we install it?" And no one in our, organization knows how. And James was like, "Oh, I'll go down there and I'll train them, and not only to install but also to maintain the equipment." And and that's really special for us because I'm a firm believer in providing a hand up, not just handouts. In terms of generosity, you want to teach someone to fish, not just give them a meal. And so he had this desire to go and build in capacity among the orphan kids that we were caring for, so that when they graduated high school, they could have a marketable skill like solar. So that was his intent. So it went way beyond getting us access to solar equipment. So we were working on a plan. He gave us a quote that was like a fraction of the cost. I mean, like it was dirt cheap,
Yeah.
and good equipment, obviously G4 stuff. And so so he was like, "Let's go," and our board was really on board with it. But the problem is things just started deteriorating in Haiti. The president was assassinated in 2021.
Yep.
Later that year, there was a massive earthquake. There was this huge power vacuum that opened up in Haiti, where violence was rampant. Gangs started to fill that power vacuum. And right now, to this day, about 80% of Port-au-Prince, Haiti's biggest city, is controlled by gangs, and that includes the ports. So when you think about shipping a container from the U.S. into Haiti, and you don't know if your container is actually going to make it out of the port because the gangs are controlling it, your value proposition is diminished because it's a huge risk. And so we sort of waited and waited to send the container, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And eventually, James and I had multiple conversations, and we kind of had this idea. Well, it was his idea, but I got excited about it to do an initiative to empower organizations in the U.S. and beyond, not just in Haiti, to gain access to solar at at very no margin. So just passing it through to nonprofit organizations so that they could be empowered. So it really became a initiative to give back in general and not just focused on Haiti.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, it's like it's a positive thing, right? Maybe not so much seen as a failure, but it's an opportunity to take something that was kind of like a little bit of a negative. We couldn't get there, and complete the project at hand in Haiti, but you were very much able to kind of pivot and do some different things that are going to help other communities, which is really important.
So, I mean, so we just kept talking, James and I, and eventually I came on board with EG4. And one of the first things that we did was connect with this organization in Burundi, which is an East African country. It's the poorest country in the world.
It's super small.
Super small.
When you first told me about it, I was like, wait a second. I think I've heard of it maybe once before. I really had to go look on the map of where it was.
Yeah, it's extremely small, very poor, landlocked country, and just horribly under-resourced. And James connected with an organization called Amazi Water, which does water wells that are solar powered in Burundi. That's the only place that they focus their efforts, and they're incredible. They've done over 1,000 wells. Their mission is to by 2030 have a well for every Burundian that's accessible within a 20-minute walk, and that has clean water and all the water that they need for the day. And so they've got this incredible technology that ensures that pumps are working. And if they're not working, there's like a hotline people can call, and then there's an immediate team that comes and fixes the issue. Because that's the issue in Africa, right? Especially with the developing world in general, is you build something like a well, but then you don't have someone to actually come in and service it. Yeah.
So do the pumps like keep the water running so it doesn't keep it in stagnant water, or that's actually to draw it up from the well?
Yeah. So the panels will pull the water, obviously power the pump, pull the water out, and then it'll go into like a 10 kiloliter tank that'll be held. Because of course, when you've got solar, you have only certain hours that the pump will operate.
Kiloliter.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
that's 1,000 liters.
Yeah. You don't hear that a lot in the U.S.
Yeah.
Kiloliter.
Yeah. Well, we have our own way of doing things.
Yeah, I know. But we talk in terms of kilowatt all the time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And so that's EG4 equipment that is powering these pumps.
They've
right?
got right now it's panels that we supplied. They've got some Power Pro wall mount batteries, all-weather batteries that I'll talk about in just a second. And so they're utilizing those for some experimental stuff with battery-backed solar pumps.
Okay.
So that you cut down on the size of the tank, cut down on the fabrication, and you can pump 24/7, so that people don't have to just come to the well at the heat of the day to get water. They can come at night, and it's still operative.
We're leveraging EG4 inverter technology.
Yeah. So we're working on some stuff with that, and we'll probably have more to share down the road. But
that's cool.
It's exciting stuff. Yeah. So I came on board, and James and I actually went to Africa in 2024, beginning of 2024. We spent some time in Uganda. We actually had a chance in Uganda to meet with some government officials, and one of the things they were talking about was really interesting. The challenge, obviously, in Africa and much of the developing world is reliable power. But so much in Uganda, 80% of the population's rural, so they live in villages. And for the government, it's really difficult for them to come up with the capital to build out distributed power infrastructure. So like they have a lot of hydro. The Nile River flows through Uganda. There's some mountains out to the west of Uganda that has some hydro potential. And then they're right on the equator, so there's a lot of solar potential.
Yeah.
But they don't have the infrastructure to deliver that power out to these villages. So huge part of the population just doesn't have access to electricity, never has. And what's interesting is, as we were having this conversation with these government officials, I kind of saw the wheel spinning for James, and he was just like, it was amazing having him share, what if we did something like, what if we did like a mini grid kind of thing?
Microgrids. I was just going to say, wouldn't microgrids make more sense to serve some of these communities? Because they're probably spread pretty far out from each other, right?
Yeah. And so you have a centralized space. So it was just this experience where we got excited about the potential to impact people's lives in a positive way. And then from there, we went to Burundi to visit these guys at Amazi Water. And man, I'd never been there before. It was incredible. We went to this village, and they didn't have access to clean water. So we walked with the village leaders. We went to this river that was just rushing. It was muddy. I mean, you couldn't see down into it at all. It was just straight mud. And people were out there with these yellow plastic cans, and they were getting water out of the river and to drink.
And now, did they boil that, or?
If they could, but
if they could,
they have a huge deforestation problem in Burundi, and so there's not a lot of charcoal available.
Not a lot of firewood.
Not a lot of firewood, so a lot of families don't have the means even to boil their water. Wow. So they deal with all sorts of issues like cholera, diphtheria, just waterborne illnesses. Mm-hmm. And one of the most striking moments while we were there was one of the leaders of Amazi Water asked the villagers through the translator, how many of you have lost a child from waterborne illness? And I kid you not, like 70% of the people raised their hand.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of, a lot of times, like, especially in the Western world, and to call a spade, like, I'm a guy from New Jersey, this just typical, white guy from New Jersey that, like, I've never seen anything like this, and I know that I have this, this natural born, like, kind of, I guess, a lack of awareness of how hard it is for other people elsewhere in the world. It's a lot of times we ourselves in the United States are pretty ignorant, because we, I've even heard it said, and I kind of, like, I definitely, like, it upsets me when people are like, well, they don't know any better, and that's just why they keep doing it. No, it's not that. Like, they know that waterborne illnesses can come from there. They don't have any other resource. They have no other option.
There's no clean water.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take your chances with cholera, or, I mean, you die of dehydration.
Yeah, it's one or the other. So a lot of times, like, when you hear, like, the pushback of, like, well, not my problem, well, it's really kind of everyone's problem. And especially if you were to put yourself in their shoes, it's a really challenging situation. It's a very challenging situation. You either die from dehydration, or, you get waterborne illness. And what is a parent to do?
Right, exactly. It's an impossible situation.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, like in that particular village, the village leaders were talking about how not only were they, having to get water from this river, and, children dying from waterborne illnesses, but the river was infested with crocodiles and hippos. So there were also stories of children going in to get water for their families and never coming back. So it was wild. And the guy the leader from Amazi Water announced to them that they were going to get a well. And that was our purpose for being there, was like, I've come here to share the news
that probably brought an incredible amount of joy.
People just were celebrating. They were so excited. And it's it's powered by solar. And so for solar, for us rather, solar is, a lot of people, it's a convenience. It's a
Yeah.
way to save costs on, our energy bills. But in a lot of parts of the world, it's life and death.
Yeah.
Solar is life and death, and access to electricity is life and death. And so,
That's a crazy concept to think
yeah,
about. Like, for all the pushback that the industry has gotten, like, did you know that solar can be a life or death situation?
yeah,
It's like, it's truly independence, right? And that's what I think that's what makes the product so great and what makes the industry so great is that it's the multiple use cases of solar.
yeah.
And where we live, we have very first world problems. We're trying to save money. In other places in the world, solar saves lives.
It does, 100%. Yeah, and in Africa, in particular, East Africa, it's not just access to solar, it's access to quality solar. So there's a lot of stuff that's just dumped on the continent that's not supported, that, there's no firmware updates being done, there's no warranty support. I was talking to someone in Uganda actually the other day, and he's an installer. I was asking him what kind of warranties do you offer on your product? I was just curious, and he said, well, for our panels we have a year. We offer 1 year warranty,
Wow.
and for our batteries 6 months. And I was like, dang, because standard for panels is like 25, 30
25
years,
years, yeah,
and
yeah.
for batteries, 10 years for
Yeah,
our batteries, right?
yeah.
So they're hungry not only for access to renewable energy, and the opportunity that comes from that, but also more importantly, access to quality components that can stand the conditions there, that can be counted on when life and death are at stake. And so we feel this responsibility to be part of the solution and to really equip the people that are doing the work on the ground, the people that are running the clinics, that are providing the water, because they know the people that they're serving. They just need good stuff that can do the job.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges to getting something like this launched?
Well, I think, I mean, you mentioned sometimes the reputation of solar salespeople is less than
Yeah.
stellar, right? So calling a nonprofit organization, let's say here in the U.S., and saying, "Hey, I run the nonprofit partnership program, and we provide affordable solar." They've heard that before, right? So for me, I have to get past that first sort of conversation for where so that they can really hear the value proposition, and more importantly, the heart behind what we're doing. Where we're not looking to profit on the work we're doing with nonprofits. We're looking to be part of good work that's being done in the world. And so, if I can get to that point, usually people are really responsive, and we've been able to work with some amazing organizations here in the U.S., like I said, and beyond. Um, but uh, but yeah, it's been something that you get to resource, like, there's a animal sanctuary that we provided mini splits for in San Antonio, and the executive director there, she's sending photos and
That's
talking about how life changing, not life changing, but it is for the animals, life changing to have a cool space in the summertime to
gets hot
yeah.
in San Antonio.
Yeah, and that one of the things we also really like partnering with are veteran causes.
Yep.
So we have a partner in Colorado who operates like a pet animal rescue ranch, and they bring vets who are struggling with PTSD and just need a place of peace to come and spend time with animals and heal. Spend time healing, and so they're running all off grid with our stuff.
That's killer.
And so
That's
just to
awesome.
know that that's happening because of our founders' commitment to generosity and desire to not make it just about the bottom line. Of course, we're a for-profit business. We want to make money, but we want to leverage that success to impact people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's a critical part of like the mission statement that EG4 has, right? It's energy generation for everyone,
For everyone.
right? And when James founded the company, the idea was, I'm gonna have different resources and different product solutions for every different segment of the market that you can imagine. And the goal is to be able to provide access to renewable energy. And really, it's not even just like, it's not about really, it's far less about being renewable and kind of, even though it is a green energy. And we don't hold any grudges towards green energy,
Sure.
though, right? Like,
We're part of that industry,
we're a part
right?
of that industry, but I think what I'm trying to explain is our core values as a company is really surrounded by, I would say, independence and accessibility. Making this technology accessible to all, not doing it in a cookie cutter way, because it's not a one size fits all solution. That's why we have such a large and diverse product mix.
Right.
And doing it in such a way that it makes it so that you yourself, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're in a village, whatever it is, if you're, light commercial applications, whatever it may be, you have the ability to provide your own power source.
Right.
And we want to do it in a way that doesn't price gouge the consumer. We want to do it in a way that is, usable for nonprofits when we're doing that kind of partnership work. It's just a part of our ecosystem. It's a part of the DNA of who we are.
Well, I think people feel better about, purchasing from a company that they know is giving back and investing in people that are completely under-resourced. And so, I've actually had conversations with installers and EPCs that we work with, and I get to tell this. This is why my job is so amazing. I get to tell the story of our commitment to generosity and to see the impact that that has on our partners, whether it's installers, like I said, or EPCs, that they're actually part of it then. By connecting with us, they're actually helping to make possible this good work that we're doing here in the U.S. and beyond, helping to get reliable power to folks that need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you definitely have the coolest job, and because you're able to, impact probably the most lives out of anyone that works here,
Well,
right?
yeah,
It's
I mean,
amazing.
yeah, but I'll go back to you, and I try to really hammer on this, that my job would not be possible without the, like your team, like what you do, what our tech support folks do, what our compliance folks do. We wouldn't have a nonprofit initiative without the success that they've brought to the company,
Oh, we appreciate that,
and our
man.
installers, and so that's a really cool thing that we're all a part of through
Don't
this
make me,
through this. Yeah,
shed a
yeah,
tear.
yeah, yeah. After we had that first trip, I went back in August, so like 7 months later, and we had sent 30 wall mount batteries, the all weather wall mount batteries, over to Burundi. We brought those in. They were supposed to arrive like 2 weeks before I got there. They arrived literally 15 minutes after I got there.
Wow.
So it was just like,
Talk about perfect
oh, it was
timing.
perfect timing. And we took 10 of those batteries up to northern Burundi. So you're up into the mountains where they grow a lot of coffee there.
So describe the landscape, like really get into it. Like,
So those countries like Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, Tanzania are right on the equator. So you don't have like summer winter like you have in most of the US. You've got rainy season and dry season. And so rainy season, everything's green. It's like a jungle. It kind of has a jungle vibe. Even in the forests are more jungle-ish. There's monkeys and stuff like that. And then in the dry season, it's obviously dry and there's a lot of dust in the air. But it's Burundi and Rwanda are very hilly. So there's, like I said, a lot of hydropower in that region because of the elevation changes. But it also makes it difficult for people to farm because you have to terrace farm. And also it creates a problem with water. It goes back to the water problem because people are using the river for all sorts of things, not necessarily sanitary things. But all of that water is going somewhere because
Yeah.
because of the topography, and so it creates problems on top of that. But yeah, if you go north out of Bujumbura, which is the capital of Burundi, you head straight north toward Rwanda. You get into these real dramatic hills, and you see a lot of coffee being grown. You see, you know, banana trees. You see, little villages along dirt roads.
So the coffee, is that like a primary economic driver
Yeah,
there?
it's big in Burundi. Yeah,
Okay.
yep. But they don't really have much of an economy. It's really subsistence farming for
Yeah.
most folks. Hand to mouth, kind of thing. But we went up there, and it was a couple hours outside of the main city in Burundi. And there's this American couple. They have a organization called Cries of a Child, and this is a couple who left the U.S. They had nothing. They just moved to Burundi, again, the poorest country in the world, and felt like that's what they were supposed to do,
Yeah.
and got started. And yeah, it's wild to see what they've done. But they have a maternal health clinic in kind of in the hills in Burundi. There isn't anything like that available for hours, or an hour or two, or actually more than that, in that community. So it's the only place where not only pregnant women, but also just anyone with healthcare needs goes to.
And they can get the assistance they need.
Yeah, but there's no grid, right? And so we show up. They've got 60 solar panels that they bought, and they're just trashed, and that's like I said, the challenge over there is getting quality equipment. And so we were able to replace all their solar panels, and then we installed 10 of the wall mount batteries on a three-phase system.
Awesome.
And so for me, that was a great experience, not only because I saw the human impact, like face to face, because the clinic was operating while we're installing these batteries, and we had to turn off the power a couple of times, and the medical workers came rushing in and said, "Can you turn the power back on soon?" Because someone was on oxygen. And so you really saw like the life and death related to access to electricity, face to face there. But we installed the 10 batteries, and man, it's still. I actually check in with them every couple of months. Just, how's your system working? Need any support from us? And they're like, nope, everything's great. Running perfectly, no issues. I don't even think they really use their generator anymore. And so yeah, it was a huge blessing to be a part of that. We actually got to loop in a Rwandan guy he flew from Rwanda to come help us with the install, and he'd never seen our batteries before, and he was just super impressed by the quality and the ease of setting up with the quick connects. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, just to be able to be a part of that was, and then to come back to EG4 and tell the story, like show photos, here's what you're helping to make possible, and our customers, here's what you're helping to fund through doing business with EG4. And man, it's I know I said this a million times, but it's just an honor to be a part of it, and to be able to execute this thing that is on James's heart and mind, and it has been for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, James is a very special guy, and has obviously really huge heartfelt ambitions on, doing different things and helping us achieve our personal goals of how we can help change the world.
Yeah.
He implores each and every one of us to do that across the company here at EG4. So, it's really exciting to be able to be a part of the family that, that we all kind of work together to do that. Um, One of the things I was going to ask is, I would imagine, one of the challenges, and I know that you're probably working on this, but training installers over there and just getting an installer network is probably going to be something that needs some work, or is it kind of already exist? What does the installer network look like over there?
So yeah, there are a lot of solar installers.
Really?
I will say that, and going back again, the quality of equipment that they have, it's not the installers that are trying to sell cheap equipment, that's all they have access to in a lot of places, right? And so installers get excited when they see, like my friend from Rwanda who came and installed those batteries, to see a quality product. It's amazing. And have American engineering, American firmware management,
Yeah.
all those things are unheard of for the most part in the continent. And so, yeah, I mean, the installers, they're hungry for quality products. They're hungry for training. There's a lot of job creation opportunities, I think, available within solar, if you can get a reliable product into the market. And so I think that there's some opportunity there. In fact, we met with a guy in Uganda who has created 2,000 jobs among young people by training them to be virtual assistants, website designers, marketers, social media management. And these kids come from the slums, and he trains them in these skills. And then he goes out to find people in Europe and the United States, like organizations, companies, to hire them to do this work, to contract with them, and creates this sort of job creation mechanism. And he's doing all stuff remotely. So I think even, from a training standpoint, to offer installers training, you could do a lot of that remotely. And there's some easy ways to raise the knowledge base, the capacity among the installers that are already there, working and have that background in solar.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever need someone to kind of roll their sleeves up and go over
Yeah.
there with you, man, I'm all about it. I'd
Yeah.
love to
Well,
come
you
and
have
help out.
you have the solar knowledge. So like I come from the nonprofit world, and so this has been like drinking from a fire hose. We had a sales training a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and man, it just you and Dylan and the people who spoke at that, it was just like so much knowledge.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's awesome because, you know, um, it used to be for me that I just saw it as like it just in any other industry, right? But having seen the, last year we supported 46 nonprofits with solar in the U.S. and abroad, and we gave away about $500,000 in discounts through that program, through our nonprofit program. And so now I'm seeing why solar is important, is an important technology, because it's powering all these amazing things that are going on. And one of the challenges has been finding people who want to partner up with us on the installation side. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now, is identifying installers in the US in particular who are interested in partnering with us, where we provide the equipment to a nonprofit. They agree to do the installation and the system design. And like our installers, we don't ask them to give that away for free. We're just like, hey, just charge your normal installation rate. Any of the equipment on the AC side that they need you can supply that. But we just ask that you allow us to pass through on the nonprofit side, our products.
Yeah.
And so it's created this energy with some installers in our network that are, they want to be part of something that is making an impact too. And so we have this sort of on-ramp through our nonprofit partnership program with installers, where they can, join in. And it's kind of cool. So like how it works is, I'm developing a map of installers in the US who are interested in the program.
Yeah.
And so when a nonprofit comes to me, say they're in Philadelphia, right? So then I look at the map, and if I have an installer who is in that area, services that area, I reach out and say, so and so nonprofit is interested in the system. Are you interested in the install? And I can get a sense of like what size of a project that's going to be. And if they're on board, then great. I let them handle the system design, like I said. I just provide the product at their guidance, and we ship it to the nonprofit. But then it works the other way too, where the installer can nominate. Let's say they go to a church, their local church wants solar. They can fast track their church to get into our program, and then we can provide them products. So it's meant to be this like reciprocal relationship between installers and us at EG4, EPCs as well. People that want to impact their community through solar and gain access to our products. We can provide that for nonprofit partners in a very minimal cost way.
That's amazing. I mean, what's the best way if someone wants to, if an installer wants to get involved with that type of work, what's the best way for them to reach out to us and to you to do that?
Yeah, so my email address, probably the best way, just Bryan with a Y dot McInnis, MCINNIS at eg4electronics.com. You can also, we have a installer. If you're not yet an installer and you want to be, that you can fill out our installer form, and there's an option to click on that form that says I'm interested in a nonprofit program, and then that goes directly to me. I reach out and we talk about what that looks like. So so we're building this network of installers who have a heart to give back, and there's just so much opportunity to get like photos of for the installers of how they're impacting their community. We can lift up the installers. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and I love highlighting installers that are giving back through our program, because I think that people in their communities, that matters to them. In fact, I have some stats where 71% of consumers want to work with companies that align with their values. People want to be doing business with companies that are giving back in a meaningful way. And a lot of people will specifically look for that before choosing to do business with company A or company B. 90% of Gen Zs expect companies to be acting in socially responsible ways. In other words, giving back. And so it's good business to give back. It's good business to be generous, and you don't do it for that, right? But I believe that when you choose to step out in generosity, like James has in this program, good things happen, and good things have happened.
It's only going to serve to grow your network of customers and connections. Right. You're going to make connections with people who align with your core values as well.
That's right.
Right. And you guys will, what is it? A rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be able to elevate the work that you do in communities that need these services, and so on and so forth, or however you're bettering the world.
Yeah. We got this one guy. This is a cool story. So this guy in the southern border of Texas, kind of a Big Bend area, he lives right across the Rio Grande. And his nonprofit did restoration, like waterway restoration. I don't know what the correct terminology is, but basically cares for the environment in that area. But he started going across the river and coming in contact with these communities in northern Mexico that had zero access to grid power. And he's kind of a solar hobbyist. And so he was kind of doing some real small systems as he could afford it, just to give back, just out of his own pocket.
That's so cool.
And we connected. I can't even remember how we connected, but we connected. And now he's been buying through his nonprofit. And it's kind of shifted where a good portion of what he does as a nonprofit now is going across the Rio Grande and electrifying homes and schools, and giving them access to reliable power. He's using the little 3K inverters and server rack batteries.
That's awesome.
And man, it's just changing people's lives. And if we wouldn't have had that nonprofit program, he wouldn't be able to participate in a way that's now scalable and impacting more and more people.
Yeah. That's a unique area too, an area of need. The Big Bend area on both the U.S. and the Mexico side. Like if you're from Texas and you haven't been there, like you definitely should. It's such a beautiful landscape and such a unique part of this country, but also especially on the Mexico side, an area of great need. And you have a lot of small communities there like Boquillas del Carmen and so on and so forth that have infrastructure issues, and they're just across a river that you can wade. It's literally walking distance, but they live very different lives and have very different infrastructure. layouts than we do, and stuff like that is
Yeah.
just so cool to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's so many different organizations that I didn't even know about that somehow, they reached out to someone on our team, or someone on our team was already connected to that organization, and we make a connection, and they've been quoted solar, and it's like double the price of what we would provide, and just to see, because when they can save money on solar, they get to spend that money that would have otherwise been spent on solar on medication for people, or food for people, or transportation for people. And so yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be a part of, and I think it's inspiring other people within the industry to step up in compassionate ways to give back to their communities.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess kind of to wrap up like the show a little bit, what are some of the things that, different people can do aside from like installers engaging with us? What are some things that like people can consider and think about how to engage in this type of way and do these type of things? What are the core fundamentals of what it takes to really get involved with different community projects like this?
Well, I mean, I'm a firm believer of see a need, meet a need, right? So you don't have to go to Burundi to, come in contact with people that have legitimate needs. There's people in your own town or city or whatever. And so I think like, and everyone's different in terms of what they're passionate about. Like some people are passionate about pet rescue, some people are passionate about caring for vets, whatever it is that, drives you, get involved with that thing locally, and then maybe that'll grow into something globally that you're a part of. Um, I mean, that's what I've seen in James. Like he's just looking. Basically, it's what's your bottom line, right? If your bottom line is just a profitability and up and to the right in terms of finances and padding your pockets, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's important to have a desire to see other people empowered, to see other people lifted out of whatever circumstances they're being challenged with. So it's just so great that James has done that. He's leveraged the success of EG4 into something that's impacting people's lives. And whether you're running a company like EG4 or a household, right, you can choose to do that with what you have. So I'm not so interested in people necessarily partnering with us directly. I mean, I hope they do. I hope if you're an installer out there, partner with us.
Please come join
Would
it.
love to talk to you about the program. But really just, if this could create a ripple effect, the people that are watching are inspired by the generosity of our founder, the initiatives that we're focused on, and they can take that into their context, the world's going to be a better place.
I couldn't agree more, man. Well, it's been great having you on the show
Thanks, John.
today, and I mean, it's a really unique thing that you do here at EG4, but I think it's part of what makes EG4 such a special and unique place.
Yeah.
So we're so thankful to have you on the team and to see all of the success that you've had, over the course of the last year. I know you're only going to continue to build on that and impact more and more lives.
Yeah.
Through this type of work as we go on and we continue to grow. So with that said, thanks again, Bryan.
Thanks,
Appreciate
John.
having you on the.
Good to be here.
Even though I see you in the office, I mean, it's great to be able to, because we're always working.
Yeah.
Right? We don't get a chance to kind of really dive into it all the time.
Yeah.
But thank you for this.
Absolutely.
And these incredible stories. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on Power Hour. Where here at EG4, we implore you to power more with EG4. We stand for energy generation for everyone, and we are your #1 resource for true whole home backup. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.